Hello and welcome to Watchworthy. It's your boy, Brother Ash.
And I'm your co-host, Miss Chris D.
And on today's episode, we're going to be covering the 2020 Netflix documentary, Killer Inside, The Mind of Aaron Hernandez. So this documentary series, it came out around the pandemic, so Miss Chris D got to watch it, but I wasn't watching documentaries a lot back then, so I didn't watch it, but nonetheless, we covered it. It was 3 episodes, and we learned a lot about this case.
Yes, so, this is my second time watching it, but I already had an idea about this case because it was so popular at the time. Like, a lot of people knew of the name, but not necessarily a lot about Aaron Hernandez's life and career. So
yeah, so especially with this new series coming out on FX, we just wanted to cover this documentary because we felt like a lot of people are revisiting his story. So we thought it would be interesting to bring it to you guys' attention if you haven't already seen the documentary. So yeah, the documentary features jail phone calls, courtroom videos, news videos, interviews with journalists, jail guards, the sheriffs, his old teammates, even Urban Meyer, his old, or his wife at least, was in the documentary.
Yeah, not what you call it. No Tom Brady in the documentary.
Oh no, they did feature Gronk though.
Just like clips.
Yeah, clips though.
They weren't actually sitting for
the
documentary.
Yeah. So yeah, after listening to our review, please share your thoughts about Aaron Hernandez, his life, his crimes. Were you a Patriots fan? How did this affect you? A lot of Patriots fans had mixed feelings because
burn your jersey.
they loved him at first, but when the evidence started to pile up, it was kind of like, oh yeah, this, what 50 said in Power. Whatever they say he did that shit.
So let's start a little bit about Aaron Hernandez's background. He was born to Terry and Dennis Hernandez in Bristol, Connecticut. Or at least, I don't know if he was born there, but that's where they say he grew up most of his childhood and his high school years. He went to Bristol Central High School. And there, Aaron was a superstar on the field, like naturally gifted athlete. He also played basketball and did track and field. So he was just an all-around athlete. But most importantly, everyone in the documentary said he was really kind to everyone. Not somebody you would think would commit a murder later on in life. He was very kind. He was kind of like a class clown. He was very fun. And we talked about, how amazing he was on the field. He even was a state player of the year one year. So already in high school, really getting the attention of the press and the media. But they did point out how in high school, he got knocked out so bad that he got sent to the ER. So that's a red flag already, because that is kind of a precursor to the CTE that we're going to talk about later. And from playing high school football, babe, just how many concussions kids can get, how many injuries you can get, and you're so young in your career already.
Yeah, Aaron was older than me, and even when I was playing high school, I think Aaron was like about 7 years older than me, but when I was playing high school football back in like 2011 to 2013, it wasn't really, there was concussions, we knew about them, but it wasn't as much awareness or information.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure like he definitely got concussed at a young age and, just
screwed him up from there. And so a little bit more about his family. Aaron had a brother, DJ, and he was already playing at UConn. So it kind of ran in the family. And they even said that Aaron got a soft offer from UConn at age 14. So he was really, already making a name for himself in high school. And wanted to point out that his fiance, Cheyenne Jenkins, who you'll see throughout the docuseries, they met in junior year of high school in 2005. So, they started off as friends and then they grew a relationship from there. So she was really a ride or die to the end, y'all. And a little bit about Aaron's father. I think this is where, that troubled past comes into play. His father, he also made a name for himself in the 1970s at the same high school. And he went out to UConn and did his thing. And you have to think, like, this is a first-generation immigrant from Puerto Rico. So he was really making a name for himself. But, of course, he had some alcohol issues. He was abusive to his wife, Aaron's mother. They didn't talk about him, like, beating the kids or anything, but they just said he was really tough on the boys. Like, if you don't get this play, you got to do 100 push-ups type of stuff, which is not uncommon for these types of athletes.
Yeah.
But ultimately, his dad passed away in 2006, which was very surprising to everybody because he was kind of like the king of Bristol, and he could do no wrong, and everybody just loved this guy. But he had a random hernia surgery and died from that.
Yeah.
And that was in 2006. So that was when Aaron was 16 years old. So put a red flag for a young man losing his father so early in his life. I think that he kind of went downhill from there. And we all can, relate to grief and mourning, especially at a young age. I didn't lose anybody at such a young age like that in high school, so I wouldn't know what that's like. But I could only imagine how much he looked up to his dad, especially in the athletic department, to like lose your inspiration. That probably also took a hit for him. All right, so also featured in the documentary was Aaron's friend and high school quarterback, Dennis Sanusi. So his name's also Dennis.
Mm-hmm.
Dennis says he and Aaron experimented sexually from 7th grade to 11th grade. So I put a red flag for that just because Aaron is not here to tell us his side. It just seems like, this guy, I don't know, like, I don't want to say that it's not true or not. I don't know. I wasn't there. But I just feel like now he's, this story makes me sound relevant. So let me add in that I also was super close with Aaron. And going off of that, his brother came out with a book. DJ came out with a book, and he did say in the book that Aaron was sexually abused as a child by a male. So maybe that has something to do with his troubled past, like all of these things just kind of added to his troubled upbringing.
Yeah.
So red flag for that too.
And it was like a lot going on because they kind of always lived under the expectation that, if they ever got caught, that their families would disown them. And, imagine your star quarterback and the star tight end in high school end up, having sexual relationships
in the 2000s.
In the 2000s, yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, one is a full ride to Florida, like scholarships going. Y'all see what happened to Michael Sam, and this was long before then. So
yeah.
So
as we discussed, Aaron lost his dad, so that really messed up his mental as well, and he ultimately ended up going to University of Florida, which was a surprise to everybody because they were like UConn down, like the whole family was UConn, the dog's name was UConn,
big time.
And so it was just a surprise to everyone that he went to University of Florida. But nevertheless, this is 2006. He got to play alongside Tim Tebow, y'all, and coached by Urban Meyer, like the Swamp Kings, the big University of Florida. He even got to leave high school early to go accomplish his college goals. So he was really just all about football. But that's when he started to get into trouble when he went to college, as we all do. But especially when you're a D1 athlete and you're in a college town where if you get into trouble, the cops sweep it under the rug.
Yep.
The witnesses are reluctant, because you're the star and they're just the townsfolk. So
you bringing in big money with those big college schools. So like, they do. If it's something that they can kind of make go away, they make it go away every time.
Yeah.
Especially with the star players, like the guys that are supposed to go in the first round, second round, like
And that's when Aaron started to get the tattoos. His high school friends started to notice that he was changing a little bit. He was getting a little bit of trouble. And I also didn't put a red flag in the docuseries. He was saying the N-word. I don't let my non-black friends say the N-word. Not around me.
Straight like that. I mean, I grew up around mostly black people, so I didn't really see. There were some Spanish people I feel like I grew up that would say it, but I was never really a fan of it, and I never had any friends that really said it a lot around me that wasn't black. But Aaron Hernandez,
he was just going off the cuff. He was saying it. I need y'all to remember that prison phone calls are recorded. That's all you need to remember, because that's the only way we were able to hear from Aaron throughout the docuseries is the prison phone calls, and so we heard him saying the N-word and stuff. But anywho. Ultimately, those college years, that's when Aaron really got to feel the power of football, and he could see I could do whatever I want.
Yeah.
That's not good for a young man. He's only 20 years old at this point. And so, throughout college, he's doing good, but he's still getting some trouble. They really had to check on him every 3 days. Like his brother had to call the coach, how's Aaron doing? What's Aaron doing? That's not a good sign if your family got to be on your tail like that.
And that's a terrible trait to show to an NFL scout.
Yeah.
So, you don't want to have a guy on your team whose older brother has to call 3 times a week. Doing something stupid.
I guess that's why his ass barely got drafted, because as good as he was in college, y'all, he was the 15th pick in the 4th round of his draft in 2010. At the age of 20, he got drafted by the New England Patriots. So we're talking Bill Belichick, the whole legendary Patriots and the 2010s, and he's getting to play with Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski. But the team knew of his troubled past, so basically they said in the docuseries here to sign a letter, put a red flag, because this is stupid. He promises not to smoke weed and he's gonna do good, and he had to sign a letter.
No funny shit though, this type of shit happens every day in the NFL.
That's so sad.
The NFL works very hard, and especially teams like the Patriots, that's one of the oldest teams, you know what I'm saying? They're very historical. the Kraft family is known for their players being very business minded.
Mm-hmm.
So if
and
you
Aaron
you got this kid with a sleeve of tattoos, at least be about business, and he never was.
He was smoking weed every day, y'all.
They have a lot of contingencies like that in pro sports. Where like,
Yeah.
we're gonna sign you, but we need you to, have this drug test a little bit more often than everybody else.
So as Brother Ash said, Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft, they even had to lean on Urban Meyer. Now they calling your college coach like, what do we do with Aaron? We need advice. How do we keep him in check? It's just trouble from the beginning, y'all.
Yeah, and that's not Bill Belichick style. Like, he's there to coach football. You should be a man by now.
Yeah. So one of his friends, Steven, he was featured in the docuseries. And Steven, his father actually played football with Aaron's father, so they went way back. And he knew his friend. And he said, look, it was not a good idea for him to play in the NFL only 2 hours from home. You need to get away from your hood. You need to go explore the world. He wanted him to get drafted to like LA or something. But instead, you're only 2 hours from home, so you're still hanging with the same crew. So Aaron was even hanging out with his weed plug. You supposed to be practicing for Sunday games. What you doing out here hanging out with the weed plug? His plug's name was Alex Bradley. He also was hanging out a lot with Odin Lloyd. Odin Lloyd was the boyfriend of his girlfriend's sister. So
Red
it's
flag.
Like, yeah.
I never heard of I never heard of a black dude named Odin. That's like Thor's dad.
Don't give a red flag for his name because he was like Haitian or something. That's his culture.
Okay.
But I thought you was putting a red flag
it's for like you. A nigga Viking.
He was kind of forced to like hang out with his girlfriend's sister's boyfriend. So you know how that is. Like,
oh, yeah.
But they just show, it's so funny when in the court case, the lawyers are trying to explain their relationship. And he's like, Odin was his pro joint roller or whatever.
Yeah. I forgot what they said.
He was the blunt king.
Y'all know how them lawyers and defense attorneys be in the courtrooms trying to describe like regular lingo. Like,
yeah, it was really funny because that was really all it was. And like, it wasn't like they were best friends. They just hung out by association and they bonded over weed, basically. Smoke buddies. And so at this point, you're still in your first year in the NFL. You're getting high all the time. You're not bonding with your team. That's not a very good look. And again, you're playing with the creme de la creme, Tom Brady. You don't got time to be playing around like this.
Yeah.
But somehow Aaron still had a great season. He even made it to Super Bowl 46 at the age of 22. That was in February 2012. Brother Ash, you know what happened that Super Bowl as a Giants fan.
Yeah.
Aaron, had a good game. He even got to score a touchdown. But again,
should have scored too.
Yeah. Again, they brought up his CTE because at this point, you should be living your best life. You're 22 years old in the NFL, but instead he had a common theme of just being very impulsive, angry, violent. Somebody splash a drink on you or look at you crazy. Aaron is, ready to fight.
Crash out king, yo.
Yeah,
I didn't know he was like this, but it's like I said, it's because the Patriots were making sure that he was under a tight microscope.
Yeah.
There was even a clip of Tebow after a game because Tebow got drafted to the Broncos and he's like, quarterbacks always shake hands after the game. So he says to Tom Brady, like, yo, look after my boy. And Tom Brady was like, huh. Yeah, it's a lot to look after him. Like,
yeah. and again, I didn't know how much he was abusing marijuana. They said he was smoking, like chain smoking marijuana.
Yeah.
You should not be chain smoking marijuana.
Well, in his defense, the NFL is very demanding, and this was before weed was legal in a lot of states. So, like, yeah, weed gets a bad rap, but they'll shoot you up. What was it called? Turba?
Oh, yeah, they did mention how the football players were getting shot up with some type.